Welcome to our webinar today with our Senior Customer Experience Consultant, Dave Murray, on creating your company's actionable true north. So today, Dave is going to go more in depth on the topic you saw him present at the Customer Service Revolution. He'll be taking any questions that you guys may have today. So at any time a question comes up, simply navigate to that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and enter the question that you have for Dave. You can chat with us. Dave will be presenting, so he may not see it, but if you have any technical issues or anything like that, you can throw that in chat or any takeaways that you may have gotten. Dave will be presenting for about 40 to 45 minutes, and then we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A. But some of his questions might pop up in the middle and might be relevant to answer right in that moment. So we'll be doing that as well. So please enter any questions you may have along the way. And without further ado, please welcome Dave Murray.
Well, thank you, Nicole, and a special shout out to Nicole because she's really driving the bus on this today. She's looking for all your questions. She's handling any issues we have as I take you through the content that I want to share today. And also, just to echo, as Nicole mentioned, she's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have a question, fire away, and we can stop and discuss it along the way. We don't have to wait till the end. If something's relevant and you have a question of how does this affect me or how will this work in my world, go ahead and send it our way because we'd be happy to answer it. So as Nicole mentioned, I'm going to be covering the topic I covered on week 2 of the Customer Service Revolution, which is creating your company's actionable true north. But I'm going to go a little deeper on it today. So if you saw that presentation, there'll be a little bit of a refresher, and then we're going to go a little deeper in content. If you did not see it, don't worry. I'm still going to cover just about everything we covered in that as well. So let's get started. This is our DiJulius Group 10 Commandment methodology. And where we are on this 10 Commandment methodology is really at the top, the service vision. It's what we do first. It's what comes first. And it's all about creating that sense of purpose, that true north for your team members. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we get there? How do we create that? Some of you on this webinar today may already have a service vision in place. And so I hope to give you some ideas of how you can get more out of it if you already have one in place that you're utilizing, because it's really more than just a customer experience tool. Like the title of this presentation said, it's a company purpose. It drives purpose throughout the organization and from department to department if used well. So we'll go a little deeper into that. So here's where I'm going to start, because really for everything that we do, it comes down to service aptitude. And here's the thing about service aptitude. Here's our definition. We say it's a person's ability to recognize opportunities to meet and then exceed a customer's expectations, regardless of the circumstances. Now, I want to break this definition down to a couple of pieces. So first of all, meet expectations. I want you to think for a moment. Think of your own team if you oversee a team, or your department if you're on a department, and think for a second. Are you able to consistently meet your expectations of your customers? Are you doing that on a consistent basis? Hopefully the answer is yes, but sometimes that answer is no, and there could be a lot of reasons. We could be understaffed. There could be high demand. Could be because we're deploying people home. Whatever it is, if your answer isn't yes to that, that's where you have to start, right? Because we have to meet those basic expectations every single time. We have to nail it. We have to be brilliant at the basics before we can really focus on exceeding expectations. Because quite honestly, if we're not meeting those expectations, yet we're focused on trying to wow them and exceed, that's not going to get us very far. That's really not going to last in the long run. So making sure that your teams are meeting those basic expectations that your customers have when it comes to the service experience that they're engaged in. And then how can we exceed? How can we take that above and beyond? How can we take it a step further? How can we do things like personalize it? How can we do things like use customer intelligence to make it even better? Now, the last part of this definition, regardless of the circumstances, and what that quite simply means is it doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. or a Friday afternoon at 4:45. That customer gets that same attention. We're meeting and exceeding expectations, regardless of what's going on around us, regardless if we're understaffed, regardless if it's our busy season, it's our peak, whatever that is, right? So that's what service aptitude is all about. And the reason I bring service aptitude up It's a very important reason because we as human beings get service aptitude from three places. The first two are first how we grow up, right? It's our previous life experiences, quite simply how you grew up. The second one on your screen, and to me, the scariest, are your previous work experiences. And why is that scary? Well, as we all know, unfortunately, most places don't spend a lot of time on the customer experience. Most places use hope as a strategy when it comes to customer experience. They interview you, they think you're nice, they think you understand them, they think that you're a great fit, and they think and they hope that you're going to deliver an experience like they would do as well. That's not always the case. We always like to say that if you aren't providing service aptitude for your team members, you're basically letting their old employer train them on service. Now, unless you're hiring from places like Chick-fil-A or the Ritz-Carlton or other places that have great soft skills training in place, then that's pretty scary, right? Now, the third place and most important that it comes from, not the scariest, but the most important, is current work experience. It's us. Now, I'm going to ask Nicole to do a quick poll question for us. The answer is quite simple. It's yes or no. So think about it for a moment. Do you, as an organization, have specific soft skill training as part of your training process? Okay, so not only do they learn how to do the job, right? The nuts and bolts of doing the job, but do they also learn how you would like them to do the job, how you would like them to treat customers. So let's take that poll, and the question is, do you have soft skill training in place? All right, so we see some results popping up on the screen.
Looks like we've got 56% say yes and 44% say no.
Well, that's great news. Quite honestly, this group is ahead of the curve. That 56% are saying yes. But I would expect that from a group that attended the customer service revolution and is spending time on this webinar today. But the reality out there is most organizations don't take the time to create that soft skill training. And quite honestly, that is what service aptitude is all about. Telling your team members, train your team members how you want them to treat your customer, what that looks like. Because the bottom line is, it is not the employee's responsibility to have high service aptitude. It's great when it happens, but you can't count on it. It's the company's responsibility to give them that aptitude. And it starts with creating those soft skills, making sure that you are focused on that and it's part of your everyday training. It's part of something they learn on day one, right? It's not just you learn it in day 7 or day 8 of your orientation. It's early and it's often, not only in the onboarding, but then when they get to their individual department where they're going to be working day in and day out. So if you don't have soft skill training yet, we're going to talk about some tools today that you can create and start to build your service aptitude. So if you're in that percentage, that 44% that doesn't have it yet, pay close attention. You might be able to pick up a few things that you can start to work into your soft skill training going forward. So the next question I have is, do you know who the driving force is behind your organization? This is a question that we ask whenever we're doing a service vision workshop. We ask, who's the driving force behind your business? And we'll ask that question and we'll get some answers from participants. Sometimes it'll be like ownership, or it's some of our vendors. And eventually someone says, well, I think it might be our customers. Yes, it's your customers, right? 100% of our profits typically come from our customers. And it's an opportunity to realize how important our customers actually are. So here's an exercise that maybe you could take away if you don't have this already, and help you focus a little more on customers. I deal a lot with organizations that will, at the end of the day, say to me, we think about our customers and we try and focus on our customers, but we probably don't call them enough. We probably don't interact with them enough. We might talk about them a little bit and something that might affect them, but I'm not sure that anyone owns the process of going and picking up the phone and letting them know, right? So how are our customers treated, and are they always top of mind? Well, here's a trick you might want to use, and it's something that we start to work on during the service vision workshop, is we identify customer avatars. Now, here are some examples from our partners at Mid-States Concrete up in South Beloit, Illinois. They're a great organization that I've had the chance to work with over the last 4 or 5 years or so, and have done so many wonderful things with them. But here are their customer avatars, right? So in their business model, they manufacture concrete. They manufacture hollow core concrete, so it's light for concrete. It's light, and it's they load it up on trucks, and they take it across the Midwest, mostly to Chicago, but over to Iowa, and they construct buildings. And so when they worked on this process of identifying their customer avatars, they identified who their top 3 customers were. And when they say top 3, it's not necessarily most important. It's who they work with most often, right? Who they're touching most often. So let me give you a quick overview of who those customers are. First, they have Molly, and Molly is an architect. So she's the one that's drawing all the design. She's the one that might be calling with specs and involved early on in the process, maybe making recommendations to use them because they worked so well with them in the past, all those sorts of things. Then in the center, you have Scott, and Scott's a developer, right? So he's the one that's really driving the project, right? He's the one that's having to meet payroll. He's the one that has to meet the deadlines. He's the one that's really sticking his neck out there to put his money where his mouth is and get this job done, right? So he's a large customer of theirs. And then the third avatar is Joe. Joe represents all the team members of Mid-States Concrete. Now, here's the thing about these 3 avatars, and one of the cool things that Mid-States Concrete has done, and maybe this is something that would work in your world. So they created these 3 avatars, and they put them on these cool posters that you see in front of you on the screen. And what they did was, if you walk around the Mid-States Concrete campus in South Beloit, Illinois, every conference room you go in will have Molly, Scott, and Joe hanging on the wall, right? You never go into a conference room and have any sort of discussion without their 3 most important customer types being right there in the room with you, right? So they're staring right in your face. So if you make a decision, you have to say, well, what would Molly, Scott, and Joe think? How will this affect Molly, Scott, and Joe? They're right there in the room. Right. So maybe that's something that could help your organization if customers are not at the forefront as much as they should be, if they're not always top of mind, if someone isn't owning that, at least they're there, and you can say, okay, we need to make Joe aware of this. We need to make Scott aware of this. Who's going to own that call? Who's going to make sure that we communicate this, that we're transparent about this? Right. So that's one thing that you might want to take away from this webinar today. Identify your avatars, your 3 or 4 primary customer segments, and then make sure that they're visible around the office. Make sure they're part of the decision-making process. Now, one of the reasons that we identify avatars if a company doesn't have them already is because when we want to go through and do a day in the life of a customer, and I talked about this in my presentation at the Customer Service Revolution Conference, I'm going to go and give that an example again. But if you're going to go through that process, it's helpful if you have your 3 or 4 or 5 avatars, and then you can assign groups to make sure that each avatar is being covered in that process. Now, here's what we do when we're in a service vision workshop and we want to focus on the day in the life of a customer. We want to walk in those customers' shoes. What we do is we break the larger group. Normally we have 18 or 24 people in a service vision creation workshop. We break them into smaller groups, maybe 4 groups of 5 or somewhere around there. And we assign each of them one of our customer avatars, and we have them go out and write a script of what a day in the life of that customer would look like. And here's the thing, it's all about compassion and empathy. It's all about making sure that our team members have that compassion and empathy every single time they do whatever it is they do, whether it's have a face-to-face conversation, whether it's before they pick up the phone for that next call, whatever it is they do, it's making sure that they have that compassion and that empathy, because we know it's so important. So in the workshop, we break them up into groups of 4 or 5, and we have them go out and write a script. What does a day in the life of this particular customer avatar look like? Now, here's the thing. We want to hear all the things that customer may be going through before they come to us, right? Because quite honestly, this isn't about us. It's not about us coming to the rescue. It's not about us being the hero. It's about all those things that our customers going through before they walk through our door or before they pick up the phone and call us. So we're empathetic to everything that they have gone through, put up with, whatever it is in their world, so that they're not just another transaction to us. They're not just another phone call, another person that walks into the showroom, another person that's in my waiting room, right? We want to have that compassion and empathy at the beginning of every single interaction. So when at the Customer Service Revolution, I shared the John Roberts Spa version. For those of you that don't know or weren't there for week 2, John Roberts Spa is our sister company. It's a chain of 5 luxury high-end salons and spas in the Cleveland area. And this is their day in the life, right? So some of you may have seen some fancy day in the lives on YouTube. There's some great ones out there. Chick-fil-A is probably one of the best known. If you haven't seen it, you can go on YouTube and look for Chick-fil-A day in the life, and it will pop up. You can just Google that, and it will pop up on YouTube. It's out there in the public domain, and watch it because they tell such a great story and they do it so well. Not every organization can afford to put that on tape, to make that video. And so John Roberts has a great example of what this looks like in a training session without necessarily having to put it to video, without having to go to that expense. So I'm going to share with you what the John Roberts spa day in the life is like when you're newly hired. You're coming in for onboarding on day 1 of your new position with John Roberts Spa. You're at the corporate office, maybe with a couple other new hires, and this is what you learn about the day in the life of a customer. So first of all, our customers at John Roberts are primarily women, men and women, but primarily women make up the clientele. And if you look at the demographics, while they age range is all over the board, primarily in that newlywed to mom, middle-aged mom age is probably the primary demographic. And so let's look at what they have to deal with, what they are going through, keeping in mind that many of the team members that are newly hired are just getting out of school, right? This might be their first job, their second job. And so they may not have a partner yet. They may not have children. And so a lot of what their customers are going through is foreign to them. They're not necessarily their customer. So this is what it looks like. The day in the life of a John Roberts spot, right? She's a mom. She has to be there for her kids. She's a wife. She's there for her husband, and she's a career woman. She's there for her job, right? So she has all these things that she has to be on top of, have her finger on the pulse, and really be an expert. When you think about it, at the end of the day, she needs to be superwoman to do all these things. But what's the reality out there, right? There's traffic, there's meltdowns that the kids have, there's construction you get stuck in, there's meeting after meeting after meeting that's boring. You get back to your desk and there's 150 emails waiting for you. It's just one of those things where you can't get away from it, right? And so by the time you get to the spa, you're done. You have nothing left. So the important message for the John Roberts Spa team members is that their opportunity in this is to make her superwoman again. Or if she's coming to a 6 p.m. appointment or a 7 p.m. appointment on a Monday night, just like tonight, all those things have already taken place, right? It's your opportunity to put her back to superwoman, to make her feel fantastic about herself so she can go back to conquering the world like she has to do every single day. So that's what a day in the life of a customer is all about. Now, I shared with you that during the workshop, we break our participants up into smaller groups and ask them to go out and write a script. Here's the fun part, and here's something you can do with your team members. So if you want to go ahead and do this as an exercise, just to build their empathy, by all means do it. I'd be happy to chat about it with you if you have any questions or ask your questions here. But next time you have a staff meeting, you may want to identify a couple of your most important customer segments. Break your team into smaller groups, have them spend 30 minutes or so writing a script, and then here's the fun part. They come back in the room and they act it out, right? They bring their skit to life. They act it out in front of their peers. Now, there's a couple of purposes for this. The first one is it's fun, right? It's a lot of fun. Uh, Team members have a great time with it. Some people are a little shy and it's a little out of their comfort zone, but overall it's a lot of fun. But secondly, and probably more importantly, is they are literally walking in the shoes of your customers, right? They are building empathy just by going through the process of writing a script of who a customer is and what they're going through, and then going through that on stage in front of their peers, right? They are walking in those shoes. Literally, they're acting, but they're still walking in those shoes. So that is a great tool that we use during the workshop. I'd highly recommend that you focus on that. If you have teams where empathy sometimes may be lacking, if you have teams where it can be very easy to become transactional. So if your team members are on the phone quite a bit, if your team members are handling questions that are very similar over and over and over, then this may be a great exercise to get them reconnected with that compassion and empathy towards your customer base. So that's part of the workshop. And then we dive into creating the customer service vision statement. As I mentioned during my presentation, during the customer service revolution, we call it a customer service vision statement, but we could easily change the name to action statement, because that's what it's all about. It's creating that action in the minds of our team members of what they want to be performing, what they want to be executing whenever they are in front of our customers, whenever they have that opportunity. This is what we want them to be thinking about and bringing to life. So here's the definition of a service vision. We say it's a clear call to action of what each and every employee is intentionally trying to achieve every time they are interacting with a customer, right? So we want to make sure that they are thinking about and they are trying to achieve this. They are working to achieve this every time they have that opportunity to be in front of a customer. So we want it to be easy to remember. We want it to be top of mind. Sometimes we have tools that we deploy that keep it right in front of them, to keep it top of mind. But we want to make sure that they're thinking about it and they're trying to live up to it every single time. And that's how it becomes our true north, right? Because it's something that all of our team members are trying to achieve, trying to execute. Doesn't matter if they're front of house, as they say in hospitality, or back of house. Doesn't matter if they're front facing and dealing with your customers 24/7, or if they sit in a office in the back building and hardly ever see external customers. They're seeing customers somewhere, right? They may be fellow employees, they may be vendors. They are interacting with customers, just not the typical prototypical customer that we always think of. Now, the definition goes on to say that this is different from a mission statement and a purpose statement. It is. I just want to go into this really, really briefly because it is an important differentiation. And sometimes we hear pushback here. We hear, well, we already have a mission statement. We have a purpose statement. You know what? I don't even know what those are, right? I know that they're on the wall over by the conference room, but I can't tell you what our mission statement is. Now you want me to know another statement? Well, my answer to that as a customer service consultant is yes, I do want you to know another statement. And my true answer is it's okay if you don't know the mission statement, right? The mission statement's important. It's really important for our organization globally and for the health of our organization. But if you don't know it word for word, I'm okay with that as long as you know our service vision, because this is the one that brings action. Let me explain how that works. So as I said, mission statement, super important. They're basically like a big goal, right? They're who we're trying to be, what we want to become as an organization. A purpose statement is why we exist. And then here comes this customer service vision statement, and it's what we have to do every single time. Now, this is how they differ the most. So a mission statement, as I said, they're important, that we need them for our company's overall health, but they're not actionable. If I live up to our mission statement, I can't do that in one interaction or one day or 1 month even. It takes time to get there. Likewise, purpose statements are great, but they are not necessarily actionable. The difference is a customer service vision statement that we're trying to intentionally achieve every single time is actionable. And the beauty is those actions produce results, and those results actually help us get to our mission and our purpose and our other tools more quickly, right? It's truly another tool in the toolbox to help us achieve all of our goals, achieve all of our tools. So it's really, really an important tool. I'm going to share with you a couple of examples. And the other thing that it does too, and I have a case study I'm going to share with in just a minute. It helps break down silos, right? It gives that purpose for the entire organization, regardless of the department you're in. And we all know that departments can sometimes butt heads. That sales and service combination cannot be that great, and other departments in the organization. But a good service vision helps knock those barriers down. Let me give you a couple of examples. So Walt Disney World has one, and it's to create one of the most special memories in a person's life. Now, understandably, they do have some help, right? They have princesses running around Walt Disney, right? Your company doesn't necessarily have a princess running around. But one of the things that Walt Disney World has done that makes it so unique is they teach their team members how to do this regardless of their job, right? So it's not just left for characters, for the princess or for Mickey, right? It's everybody. That's why bus drivers know how to live up to it. That's why housekeeping knows how to live up to it. They know what to do with what's within their power to make it happen, to live up to what their service vision is. Starbucks has a great one. We create inspired moments in each customer's day. Now, what happens in the world of Starbucks is they train different parts, different individuals based on what their role is in the organization is, what that means to them, how they can live up to that inspired moment, what that looks like to create it, how they can do it, what their options are, what that looks like in their world. So they have a goal to work towards and they have understanding on how to do it. I referenced John Roberts Spa already with the day in the life. Here's their service vision: to be the best experience of our guest's day. Now, one thing I want to remind you all of, a service vision is not a tagline. Okay. So this doesn't go under the logo on the front door and say, hey, we're going to be the best experience of your day. Come on in. That's not what this is all about. As a matter of fact, a customer should never see our service vision, but they should feel our service vision, right? So when some of you first see this one, you're probably thinking to yourself, yeah, going to a spa, that should be the best part of my day. Again, this is an internal tool, and it's a reminder to all the John Roberts team members of how easy it is to not be the best part of their day, right? All those expectations we have to live up to, right? We have to be the best appointment that they've made all week when they call in to book that appointment a week out. When they walk in the location that day, we have to be the best greeting they've had all day, right? When they sit down at our chair, we have to build the best rapport and make them feel at home, make them feel so special. And when they're done and they're paying and they're about to leave, we have to make sure that we give them the best goodbye they've had all week, and they're waiting to come back. They want to come back, right? So it reminds all team members, regardless of their role, that they have to live up to that burden to be the best experience, no matter what their role is, no matter where they come into the equation. They have to live up to the best experience of that guest day. So I recently got to work with a great healthcare provider down in St. Augustine, Florida, Flagler Health Plus, and we recently rolled out their service vision, which is providing clarity, kindness, and peace of mind. Now think about it in their world. They are a large hospital. Then they also have some community buildings around their area where they have outpatient services and a lot of doctor visits and that sort of thing, but primarily a hospital. And so the service vision is providing clarity, kindness, and peace of mind. Providing clarity. So often they're dealing with a customer base, whether it's a patient or a family member, who might be overwhelmed, might be scared, might have so many questions they don't even know where to begin. Right. So making sure that we're being transparent, making sure that what we're saying is being understood, is all about providing clarity and providing kindness. Right. So remembering that we need to do it with the utmost kindness, that we can't become transactional, that this is their first visit to us, even though it's our ninth patient of the day, right? So have that kindness. And then providing peace of mind, because quite often they are asked questions that they don't have the answer to. How long will this take? How much is going to cost? Will insurance cover this? And they just don't have those answers, right? So providing peace of mind is focusing on what you can do in the moment. What can you focus on to provide them that peace of mind. What can you do? So that's Flagler Health Plus. And another great example that I wanted to share is Call One. Call One is a communications provider. They're based in Chicago, but they're all over North America as far as the service they provide. And one of the things that happened that I was so proud of when I heard this story is it's a great example of how a service vision can truly knock down those walls, knock down silos. And here's how it happened. We created this service vision back in February. The pandemic had not hit our shores yet. We were going to roll it out in early April to a large group. They had it all planned out. We were going to be at a large function hall, roll it out, have a party after, kind of a traditional rollout. Well, we all know what happened in March. The pandemic hit our shores, and we were mostly working from home. So at first we put off the rollout. Then we decided, you know what? We have this great tool. Let's not let it sit on the shelf and collect dust. As a matter of fact, our team members probably need it now more than ever, right? They're in a new environment as well. They're working from home and they haven't done that before in a lot of cases. They need this tool. So we rolled it out virtually and it went so well. There was so much excitement over their service vision. Create great experiences, one interaction at a time. And it really started to build their sense of purpose of working together. They had become a little disconnected, as many organizations have, with this work from home and doing it so quickly. So it really helped break down some of those barriers. Then a few weeks later, they had learned that a very important senior level leader was leaving the organization. Now, under normal circumstances, that may have caused some chaos, that may have caused some fear. But I talked to so many people there that said they went back to their service vision. They used it as a rallying point for the entire organization, and it literally got them through what could otherwise have been a pretty traumatic occurrence at their organization. So again, the point, this can be your true north. It can provide your organization purpose of what you're all working towards, rowing in the same direction, and not just focused on your department. It really serves that purpose. I want to share a quick case study with you about service vision as well, because about 3 years ago, I had the great opportunity to work with ATI Physical Therapy. They're based in Bolingbrook, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, but they're in about 30 United States, operating as physical therapy clinics. And they had one particular department that was phone-based, so patients calling in with questions, concerns, and they were having some issues with that particular department. So I was asked during this project to work with that particular department, help them and help them renew their focus. We had not rolled out the service vision yet, although we had created it, but it was not rolled out yet. So I spent some time with that department, and what we decided to do was give them an early bird peek at the service vision. They got it before anyone else. It was a rollout just to their team, the service vision and the day in the life video that they had created. And we talked about how they could use it. So it was a renewed punch in the arm, if you will, shot in the arm of empathy and compassion. And here's what happened. One of the complaints we had about them that in Q1, they had just lost their way. They had lost their sense of purpose. Their average answer time to answer the phone on call-ins was 3 minutes and 13 seconds. Again, they had kind of lost their purpose. But after we had a chance to work with them in Q2 and Q3, Q4 of that same year, they had that answer speed down to 12 seconds. It's a remarkable turnaround, but it was quite simple. We just had to reinvigorate that sense of purpose into that department. They had forgotten what they did, why they did that job, why they cared so much about that job, why they cared so much about the patients that they were serving. They had forgotten. So we were able to reinvigorate them and make these pretty dramatic turnaround. So
Hey, Dave, I've got a
yes.
question from Elena. Is there a formula that can be used to help create the service vision?
That's a good question, Elena. There really isn't a formula. What we do in the process is we do what I refer to a lot of word gathering. So we have we spend some time looking at things like what our raving fans are saying. So we try and collect things like emails or maybe Google reviews. When someone is thrilled with us, what are the actual words they are saying? And we kind of isolate some of those words. And then we look at some other ways too. We do some other exercises where we're really focused on how we want to make our customer feel. And then what will they say when they are feeling that way, when we hit it out of the park. So we spend a lot of time gathering those words, because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to recreate. That's what we're trying to live up to. So while there's no formula, there is some methodology on how we get to the word. So we're not just throwing darts at a board and hoping it sticks. There is some methodology to help us get there. I just saw another question pop up too from Audrey. Who should be a part of this process? You're welcome, Elena. Thank you for the question. Who should be a part of this process? Which is a great question. So when we go in to create a service vision, we typically try and cap it at 24 people. So kind of our sweet spot is 18 to 24, and we want some leadership there, right? So we want some company leaders, some people that really have a vested interest and want the organization to succeed. We also want to have some emerging leaders, some people that are maybe up and comers, going to be around for a while. We also want to have one or two frontline folks, or maybe some newer folks to the organization, because we want to be careful that we're not creating corporate speak, or we're not creating something that sounds great to a room full of senior leaders, but a person out on the floor is not going to understand it, or not going to buy it, right? So we do want to have a good cross section of employees, probably leaning more towards senior leaders for this particular one. Excuse me. When we get into some of our other workshops, like the customer experience cycle, which will be a topic of one of my upcoming webinars, that opens it up to more participants. We can get as 40 or 60 participants in that one. And then it really allows us to get more frontline folks and have them all be part of the creation process. But we try and cap this one to about 24 max, just because of the ideas in the room. So thank you for that question. I hope I answered it.
Dave, we've got one more from Marla. What are your thoughts on using a word cloud?
I love word clouds. I think they're really, really helpful. So if you are an organization where you are using those with any sort of regularity, those are a great tool to pull out and use for this exercise. Obviously, there are some pretty easy ways to build a word cloud. There's a lot of software out there where you can kind of put the data in, and it creates the word cloud for you. So it might be a good time to play around with that if you have not done it before, or if not, we just use old-fashioned lists, right? So if we're doing a workshop and we don't have word clouds, we'll just have pages up, the big post-it pages up on the wall, and we'll have all sorts of notes, and we'll circle and highlight. So I guess we kind of make our own word clouds at the end of the day, Marla, when we don't have an actual word cloud. Thank you for that question. I appreciate it. So one other thing I wanted to get into, and excuse me, I didn't have time to get into this during the actual Revolution conference, so I wanted to share this with you and talk about a little bit, and that's the pillars, right? So we have the customer service vision statement that we already talked about, but then we also have another tool that we create at the same time, and it's these supporting pillars. And we always say that the customer service vision statement is the what. It's the what we want our employees to be doing. It's the what we want our team members to deliver, and we want our customers to be feeling. And then the pillars come in, and they're the how. They're the how we get there. So let me give you a couple of examples of what the pillars are all about. And so you can start thinking about these as well, because this may help your organization also. So we have 3 pillars that we focus on during this process, and they each have an important meaning. The first pillar is all about quality. It's us being the best at what we do. We're the best service provider. We have the best product. We're the experts. We have technical expertise, whatever that looks like in your particular world. It's all about quality. The second pillar comes in, and it's all about our customer interaction, how we build rapport, how we build those relationships, how we make a connection, how we personalize. And then the last column comes in, and it's all about going above and beyond. So here's why each one of these is important. And we've learned this from research and working with clients over the years. very often when an organization gets excited, let's say an organization like yours is excited about customer experience and 2021 is going to be the year of the customer. We're going to create our service vision. Well, what happens a lot of times is they get so focused and so excited that something can fall by the wayside. And what we have found through our research is when an organization is really focused on customer interaction, if they're not careful, quality can start to fall by the wayside. Not purposefully, but just from a lack of attention. The converse can happen as well, right? If your organization is very focused on quality, a lot of times you may see that customer interaction can start to suffer. So it is very important to focus equally on both of those. And that's why we focus on those in the pillars, right? So whenever we're creating a service vision, we want to create words that support it, that tell us how to get there. And we want them to focus on quality, how we remain number one at what we do, how we're the best at what we do. Focus on creating the relationships, the interactions we have, how we have those interactions. And then the last column is about above and beyond. And quite honestly, above and beyond is important because if you think about it in these terms, for every one person on your staff that naturally goes above and beyond, naturally find ways to surprise and delight and does all these great things for customers, for every one person, you probably have 4 or 5 that would never do that for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's service aptitude, right? Maybe they would have gotten in trouble for doing that at their old job. Or maybe it's not in their comfort level, right? They're more of a shy person. They would never go out like that or stand out like that, right? So there's all sorts of very legitimate reasons why people would not go above and beyond. So that third column is important because we need to advertise internally to our team members. These things are okay. This is what we're all about. It's okay to do these things, to exceed, to take this opportunity, to own it, and then give them specific examples of what that looks like. So that's what these 3 pillars are all about. Let me give you a couple of examples of these in action. So just a couple of clients of ours, Restaurants Unlimited, their service vision is make every guest feel like our only one. And then their 3 pillar headers are make it right, make it special, make it happen. And you can see the words underneath that help get them there, right? So it's those are the how to get to the what. And their what is make every guest feel like our only one. Complete nutrition, which is like a GNC west of the Mississippi, if you are in that part of the country and not familiar with them. Complete Nutrition, their service vision, inspire life change. And their 3 primary pillars are connect, consult, commit. And you see the words underneath to help them get there. And then, of course, the Maids International, a client of ours that we've been fortunate to work with for so many years. Wow every customer is their service vision. Deliver it, personalize it, and own it. That's the how they get there. And you see the words underneath that describe that, how they get to that. So again, just an example of what the pillars can look like. So it's not just a service vision. It's not just this slogan out there. There's some more context behind it and more how to, if you will, behind it, how we get there. And that's what those are all about. So there's one more tool I want to share with you, and then we'll open up to questions. And that's what we call the customer bill of rights, or nevers and always, or sometimes you might hear them as always and nevers. And quite honestly, they are things that we as an organization would never do, or we always do. It's that simple. But here's the thing, they're global. They're for everyone. So it's not just limited to one department. It's not just for the customer service team or the sales team. It's for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're customer facing, if you're not customer facing, if you're the CEO, or if you're the person that was hired last Tuesday. It doesn't matter. This is just who we are. It's what we do. I'm going to give you some basic examples, but they really serve as a great starting point for any initiative. So if you aren't ready to create a service vision and supporting pillars yet, maybe you're not ready to do a day in the life, this may be a place you can start and start to drive some change by focusing on never and always behavior. So let me give you some examples. Never point, always show them, right? I always give the example of a grocery store, because no matter wherever I go in the United States, there are 2 types of grocery stores and everyone knows which one they are in their market. There's one that you walk in and you say, hey, where's the peanut butter? And they say, oh, that's over in aisle 5. Or you walk into the competitor, you say, can you tell me where the peanut butter is? Say, yes, let me show you. It's over in aisle 5. I will take you there. And they walk you to aisle 5 and they say, here's all our peanut butter. Here's all our almond butter. Here's our reduced fat. Here's our this, that, the other, right? So there's two different ways to look at it, right? So never point, always show them. One thing I always bring up, and people always get this question wrong, I always ask, hey, can you point if you're on a phone? And the answer is yes, you can. Yes, you can point if you're on a phone. If someone calls up and says, I have a question on such and such, and your team member's answer is, oh, that's on our website. Well, that's pointing. Yeah, I know it's on your website. I called you for a reason. Remember that people pick a communication channel for a reason. They probably have a follow-up question. Most of us know that they can find anything on a website these days, but they probably wanted to talk to you, ask some follow-up questions. So people pick a communication channel for a reason. Honor that choice that they make. Never say no. Focus on what you can do. Now, this sometimes scares people, quite honestly, when we say never say no. That does not mean all of a sudden that the answer to everything is yes. Okay. Never say no means I can't say no. I need to focus on what I can do in this situation. So it doesn't mean yes either, but what can we do? What solutions do we have? So we're not stopping at that no stop sign. We're trying to find a solution. Never say no problem. We always recommend using certainly my pleasure. You are welcome. No problem is just really kind of a throwaway slang. And there are so many better word choices to use in a customer relationship. Never perform cold transfers. Always deliver warm transfers. Now, this a lot of times this will be more in a phone-based type environment. You know, we've all suffered a cold transfer, right? When we called our credit card company or whoever, and they said, "Oh, just a minute, I'll send you over," and they send you off. Someone picks up the phone, and you have to tell your whole story all over again, right? That's what this is all about. If you have any knowledge on that customer, if you've received any information, share it with your teammate so that they don't have to share it again. And also, it allows your teammates to start building better rapport right away. So always do warm transfers, never cold transfers. Those can be face-to-face too. That's not just phone-based. They happen a lot in the world of phones, but they can be face-to-face as well. Never overshare, just take care of it. Oversharing is kind of that little voice in the back of our head that makes us think that we don't want the customer to feel that it was our fault. So we start making all these excuses that, well, everyone called in sick and I'm working as hard as I can back there and we're all underpaid and blah, 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 right? No one wants to know that. No customer needs to know that, right? Just take care of it. So those are nevers and always. Just a couple of examples. I have another case study for you that I want to share because I mentioned how you can start here, right? This may be a great place to start, especially if you're just trying to get your company bought in and maybe you don't have the ability to go out and get the commitment for a service vision, etc. So we work with a company called Worldwide Express. They are a franchise. They are a reseller of UPS. This particular office was in Albany, New York. We were working with them and we rolled out first the nevers and always list. That's where we started. They created a really cool video. They rolled it out to their teams. They had locations in Albany and in Phoenix and in Houston. They rolled them out to their team members. At the time of the rollout, they had a 19% attrition rate. So year to year, they were losing 19% of their customers. They started with the nevers and always list. They layered in some more tools after, but they started with the nevers and always list. And by the end of that calendar year, that attrition rate was down to 3%, right? So they were losing less customers because they were focusing on the desirable behaviors. They were focusing on the always that they wanted to deliver. So we're looking at Q1 to Q4. So within 1 year, they made this pretty tremendous and amazing turnaround, right? So again, these tools aren't that complex. They are fun to create. They're team building tools when you create them, which is an added bonus. And then once you roll them out, they really, really give results and provide some traction. So I wanted to share all that. If you would like to learn more about anything I talked about today, you can do so by planning a conversation with Claudia on our team. All you have to do is go to that link on the slide there, tdg.click Claudia, and you could book your conversation with her. She'd be happy to take you through everything we talked about. I just have two shameless plugs before we get to questions. The first one is, if you didn't know already, today's the first day of our November webinar series. So this is webinar number 1. On November 5th, we have John delivering a webinar on how to build a 6-figure coaching business. So that's November 5th. That's right around the corner, obviously, this week. And then next Monday, my colleague Jess will be here talking about how to overcome virtual fatigue. So a very timely webinar as well. So just wanted to share that. There's the information again on Claudia, and I'm happy to take your questions.
All right. So Dave, this first question I am going to address for Sam. So if you were registered for the Customer Service Revolution Conference and want to rewatch any of the sessions, you do it right through the app, the same place where you would have accessed the live one. So just pull up the Agenda Watch tab, find the date of the applicable session, and you'll be able to view that recording until November 30th. And if you did not get a chance to attend the Customer Service Revolution, you are still able to register. So if you have any questions about that, you can send us an email at events@thejuliusgroup.com. My pleasure, Sam. And then Dave, Marla has a question for you. As a healthcare provider relating to your healthcare industry client, did your clients' satisfaction surveys correlate to a nurse-patient ratio? Did they consider that ratio during the study? So for instance, in her organization, there's about 8 to 10 patients per nurse. So I know that kind of ties into internal culture and processes a little bit more, but is that something they take into account with the surveys?
Yeah, absolutely it is. And it's something we're focused on right now. So obviously in the healthcare world, there's all sorts of surveys. They take their own surveys. There are HCAHPS, which is more of a mandatory survey that all healthcare providers need to be a part of, which are a little antiquated. You know, they come in the mail, and usually they're 3 weeks after your visit. So a lot of healthcare providers that we've been working with are trying to get their own data and do it earlier, because as we all know, if you are able to take care of that issue while that person is still within your 4 walls, you're much better off, and they're better off as well. So interestingly, one of the things that we talked about when it came to surveys was making sure that they're being as proactive as possible. So the nurse ratio came up, and you know, where we are right now in the world with the global pandemic, and hiring new folks might not be an option for a lot of places right now at this moment. So instead of focusing on how, you know, if wishing they could increase their ratios, what they're really focused on is being more proactive and doing more rounding and making sure that they're more proactive in checking with patients, and tracking that data. As I said before, trying to head off some potential problems before they even become problems, making sure that they're learning about things while the patient is still on their floor under their charge before they go off to the next department or before they get discharged. And again, really just focusing on clarity, making sure that that patient understands what's happening and they aren't leaving there with questions, because that is usually what leads to most of the patient issues that they experience.
Thanks, Dave. If anyone else has any questions for Dave, go ahead and throw them in the Q&A for us. And yes, that's so Marla brings up a good point, and I know that it happens a lot in many industries that we work with: financial, healthcare, legal, about legislative process, you know, to help with some of those things. And a lot of times companies are up against maybe rules or restrictions or hurdles that they don't have control over. So that falls under the not your fault, still your problem, which which is more of a zero risk topic as well.
Absolutely.
And Elena shared a great link in chat for anyone who's looking for one. If you are interested in creating your own word cloud, there is a site called wordclouds.com that you can use to create your own word cloud. Thanks, Elena.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Dave, I don't think anyone, yes, that does recur a lot. The patient to nurse ratio is definitely an issue in the healthcare industry. All right. Well, if no one else has any other questions, we will let you guys go. Enjoy your Monday afternoon. I know it's a little gray here. Evangeline is located in our area as well. So sun was peeking out a little bit for us earlier, but wherever you are, hope that you have a great week. And if you're interested in learning about that CX coaching program, please join us for the webinar with John on Thursday. And then we also have Jess's virtual fatigue next Monday. So hope that you guys can join us for those, and we will see you all soon. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you for being here, everybody.